Gresham, grievance chair. This is my 25th year, I believe. Been around the district, currently at the wonderful West Brighton Middle School. And I can bring on.
Our first school, 21 years in the district. I'm a Gresham High, teach chemistry. I coach the boys tennis team. I do forget that I to introduce myself.
Share Oregon Education Association, UNISERV consultant. UNISERV doesn't really mean anything at all. I'm kind of a regional union rep for East County, and unlike the others, I haven't worked at Gresham-Barlow School District, but I'm a long
I'm Amanda Jensen. This is my 10th year in the district. I teach 2 people on that. No grades at all. I came language. It's my 4th year in the district. 13 years in the district.
Ted Boston, speech language pathologist at Hill and Gresham High. And I think I'm under 10 years in here, something like that. I just got a Facebook reminder of getting my degree in the mail the other day. So I think it said 9 years on that, so it'd be about 9 years.
This year I was on the same boat. I got my coffee mug, the convocation. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to the district. Matt Willis. I'm actually not officially part of the bargaining team. I'm just crashing the party today. GPA president. So that's
And I'm happy to know. I think I know almost everybody. I mean, just one person. So, year 23. So many years. I actually taught here many years ago. Right now, currently I'm teaching at Gresham School. I think for about 7 years I taught middle school and elementary. So, and I'm on the bargaining team, also the executive board, as a secretary at ECU.
Good morning, Brian Hunter for District Legal Counsel. Recognize an awful lot of you from prior bargains, so it needs to be that.
Angela Friedman, Executive Human Resources. This is year 2. I'm Shana Sewell. I'm the principal at North Gresham. This is my technical administration in 25th year.
Executive Director of Student Support Services, 19 years in education. Chris Howard, Gresham-Barlow Board of Education, currently the chair. I'm in my 24th year on the board, and I have had my entire education career here as a student. I graduated from Seminole High School back in a year, and I went to this school back when it was year-round school, when we had summer school back then, and both of my daughters have graduated. Gone through the system, the same school site and legal place. Happen to be here.
Brian Blazak, principal at Springwater Trail High School. This is year 9, GPSD 27, maybe in education.
I'm Becky Finance of the principal at Historian today. It's my 2nd year here, or at Western, back after a hiatus. Where I started here supporting Brussels.
Tracy Klinger, assistant superintendent, 27 years as well. Stacy with Gresham-Barlow, started as a teacher for district. Happy to be here.
I see the hours here. There's some natural break. We'll probably cut it out, but if we want to, does everyone have a chance to look at the ground rules?
Yes, sir.
Clarifying questions or anything? Thumbs up or not, you know, we looked over it and and just to clarify about what is with you today, y'all are going to go ahead and put in articles. We're not going to ask any clarifying questions during your presentation. We'll take a quick break and then we'll come back with her. We'll take a break for lunch and back and flip it around. Sound good? Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break while they set the owl up in the middle, if that's okay.
Of course. Everybody else, I'll speak.
Just so folks know, we're working on getting an adapter for the owl. And we may need to pause again once we get that up and running.
So we're gonna be matching the. But, usually it's, our tech person, she's trying to solve that, all right, so we're opening Article 1, obviously, and making one strike and one change. Changing the length of time to for substitute teachers, temporary teachers, whether it become bargaining unit members from 90 to 45. This goes in conjunction with another piece of language later in our proposal. We have situations, particularly with substitutes, who are who are being brought in for folks who are out on extended leave. Frequently, folks are on 12 weeks on paid leave, and that timeline frequently means that there's a lot of extra work that goes into that. Fortunately, what ends up happening frequently is instead of people being or a sub being hired for as a long-term sub, responsible for doing things like parent contacts, grades, and other things like that. And all of the day-to-day work that goes into being a teacher in class. That work gets put off because frequently these substitutes are doing just day-to-day. Sometimes it's not even the same substance. And so people return, work's held up, and there's an entire stack of grades to do, there's an entire stack of parent contacts to do. And we would like to reduce the time that it takes for someone. Anybody want to put a finer point on that? For my team?
Just that it's the long-term, the lack of long-term context. I've seen in Gresham High now, the last 2 to 3 years, multiple people going out on annual leave because they've had a child and the sub job is day to day. They just have a oral agreement with the sub, hey, please show up every day. And there's nothing in writing. There's nothing, they could just choose to say, forget this nonsense and go somewhere else, right? So out of the goodness of their heart, they just keep showing up because the job just goes in day to day. And the substitute is not brought in for the PD at the beginning of the year. There's no way to put a sub job in when students are not there. So when it comes to doing grades and whatnot, it's like this oral agreement between the head secretary and the sub, like, oh, we'll find a way to make this up for you, right? It's just, it shouldn't be happening. And when I talked to my head secretary, she said it's because of 90. That's the problem. So, and 90 obviously is longer than most folks doing 12 weeks. Obviously, if someone's taking entire year leave, that's not the concern. But for these temporary leaves, which in high school is usually 12 weeks or very close to a full semester, a lot of people will go up to Christmas break. That's what we've seen.
All right. Article 4 is our next article. Talk about, and the first change we have is in E, under non-discrimination.
Changing the language, striking the word transgender and inserting the language gender identity. Finding that that is a more inclusive term rather than just the term transgender. It also works more grammatically with the sentence. Under evaluation of students, we are adding language, looking to add language that the member will be notified, and the district's records shall reflect. This has been an ongoing issue, particularly in high school, where students are given a grade by their teacher, and where while the member maintains the responsibility for determining their grades and their evaluation, they'll come back to find that unbeknownst to them, the grade for a student has changed from an administrator making that decision. We simply would like to be notified if that has happened. So, anything else? Yep, just asking if there's anything else. Just cause, looking to strike the language in regards to folks who are not currently, that are currently probationary. And looking to make all our members under the umbrella of receiving just cause protection for the courses. Okay. Next over to, which is, got it? Got it. Gonna get you steps anything. So Article 8, classroom discipline. Opening under section C, disruptive students. Currently, it says when a member requests and study board doesn't meet orders, students will come to class for a we already have language after that sentence that says students will not return to class without an administrator designating anything with the classroom teacher. So there's the possibility, there's the option for the requirement that that administrator communicates with the teacher when returning to student class. Having a student be withheld from class without and having the principal's agreement for that to happen is a problem for us, and we would like to strike that language. Continuing for section D, under seriously disruptive students. This particular section is in regards to those students who are seriously disrupting the instruction program by engaging in physical violence, verbal and written threats, intimidation, or harm to self or others. The member, we would like to add language that members have the option of being authorized to send the student to the administrator's office for the duration of the school day. Of course, that is primarily in K-5 as opposed to K-8. So for the most part, if the student is out for the rest of the period, that works for secondary. Additionally, for the students that are causing these kinds of problems, we're looking to add language of additional support. The member will receive while implementing the behavior support plan will occur within 3 working days. So the member knows what kind of support that they're going to get to be able to bring the student back into the classroom. Have them part of the class. In E, under notification, this section is about where the district administrators are aware of situations where a student being assigned to a member have had severe behavioral problems in the past, likely to pose safety problems in the future. Instead of just making a reasonable effort, we are looking to require the district keeping those members informed of these facts, unless that's prevented from doing so by law. Removing the make a reasonable effort language. Continuing in H. So this section is in regards to member perceiving particular persistent and challenging behavior situations existing in the classroom. Members may request a review of the situation with their administrator. After that, it says currently the administrator member may discuss potential solutions. This is in the event that at this request, the administrator and member will or shall discuss the potential solution, including additional development of a plan to support the class, and including the possibility of additional physical support from other adults and additional professional development for them. So the additional language is additional physical support. Continuing down to J, this references the building student conduct and safety committees, which comes up again in Article 18D. Those particular committees will identify and review workplace safety concerns, not limited to data on nuclear injury, but also including to include referrals of that data to be part of the student conduct and safety at the building. Yes.
It's weird doing this without doing stuff. Different. Yeah.
You should have every time.
It's all it's exciting that other see market is sorry that it's on you there.
We go ahead and pass out. Right, they go again.
That's like what you said down now.
Oh, waiting for you.
You know what? I waited and never really said it.
Recording in progress. Waiting.
Yes. The sound is still on. I'm just trying to screen share.
Okay. So Article 13 is sick leave. We are looking to increase the total of sick days available to members. This is in conjunction with a piece of language that exists in Article 14. That's why we're asking to, well, I asked Matt to hand these both out. Currently in Article 14, under D, we have language that is family illness, injury leave / injury leave. Notice that it says in parentheses that as long as sick leave days in Article 13 are increased to 20, looking to strike these 5 days of leave that are currently members have the option of taking for family illness, taking care of loved ones, siblings, grandchildren, domestic partners, a wide variety of folks that they can take leave for to take care of. Those sick leave days are no longer, those family leave days are no longer necessary under Oregon law. Or anybody employed in Oregon can take their own sick leave to take care of anyone in their family. So we're looking to strike that language and instead move those, increase the number of sick leave days from 10 to 20 working days. The rest of the language is just adding to that, or basically changing all the other 10s to 20s. So I'm going to go back to 14. Now we're going to go on to 14. Personal leave, currently we have 2 days of personal leave. Members have 2 days of personal leave that they can take. And if there are 700 days or less are used by members in the bargaining unit, everyone in the bargaining unit the subsequent year will get an additional personal leave day. If members hold on to at least one personal leave day, they may roll that one personal leave day over into the next year, so they could get 3 the following year. We are looking to change the personal leave to match most other districts in our area, from 2 to 3, and striking a language around the 700 days and the rollover of 1 day, 2 members. Again, striking the language for family illness. Just talked about that. I'm not missing anything. Looking to strike in K, the moratorium on sabbatical leave. Sabbatical leave, it was a long-standing practice for members. Members may apply for sabbatical leave, the office of the superintendent, and they're entirely an optional thing for the district to be able to apply. There's no reason to not have this language in the contract. If folks need to go broaden their experiences to increase the quality of the instruction in a classroom by taking a leave and receiving support for that leave, we don't see any reason that that should be part of the contract. And then striking 7, where the council agrees to a moratorium on use of that, I believe. And I'm waiting for the non-verbal. The eye contact to Eric. So in Article 15 is about unpaid leaves. This is the language that I referred to in Article 1 about the length of time for someone to become a member of the association. And part of the bargaining unit, I think that's what I actually mean. Under A6, looking to add language where the district shall attempt to secure under contract a long-term sub when a member requests a leave that is greater than 10 days. Again, we'd love to see support for members who are out on extended leave. They don't have to find a wood to come back to, but they have someone that they can rely on in their classroom, that it's not a rotating substitute. So securing that sub and making the effort to secure that sub is really important. We have a new paid leave Oregon law. It looks like we need to change the lettering. We just realized it starts, it's basically,
Everything
it's
after.
gonna all of the lettering after it, but it's currently E now. So the last article in the entire, or the last section in the article is going to be I, but we currently have an MOU for paid leave Oregon. Members being able to access, and this really kind of mirrors the MOU where members are able to access paid leave Oregon through that website or the current PLO website. They can choose to use their accrued leaves to supplement the PLO or to decline to do so if they don't want to use their leaves. And then if leave is selected, they can choose the order of use of their accrued leave. And the district will continue to help plan coverage for a member using paid leave Oregon and maintain their employer contributions.
I'm a quick learner. I look ahead. They keep my ways on that last bit because it's not.
I think I owe you. I owe you. Want to see where to work? Thank you. It's good trade those. It's pretty good stuff.
It's on there, but we're not so at lunch.
You
Never turned it in.
We still have.
This is going to take me longer. So opening 16, which doesn't get opened often, but we have a number of stipends and compensations for work outside of the workday under, especially under extra duty. But currently, if someone is on site council and working outside of the duty day, they are compensated at $30. This hasn't changed probably since the site council article was added to the contract. That might have been, I'm pretty sure before. And so increasing the payment, keep up with inflation really makes sense here. So increasing it to $30 for compensation. And you'll see increased compensation for a wide variety of activities. Later. Gentlemen in the scholar.
Become a little something like that.
Doesn't seem to be like making changes like I normally see it. Doing.
Oh, yeah, I wonder if she said it different.
Keep waiting for it to pivot over to you.
Yes,
But it does.
I know, I was like, I don't want that. Come on, I'm on cameras. I like it.
My owl strategy would be if I have something obnoxious to say, I want.
So safe working conditions, under B, building environmental communicable disease issues. This is entirely about, where there's building safety, environmental safety, communicable disease issues. First of all, in one striking language, make a reasonable effort, we want to strike that language to make it the district shall inform members of exposure. Unless confidentiality laws prevent them from doing so, if there's a serious contagious disease or illness, or an environmental hazard that they have been potentially exposed to. And then adding language after the within 10 days of a request, district shall inform the affected staff member and GBA to plan to remedy the situation. But that no member, we're adding this language, no member shall be required to return to the affected work area before the review is taking place. The members have the right to refuse exposure if immediate danger is created by an unsafe working condition when such danger threatens bodily harm or would be a health hazard. The member shall be subject to assignment at another location while the condition is being investigated and or corrected. And all of this is subject to Article 10. And then the district shall comply with all state and federal OSHA requirements to post notice when non-routine cleaners, paints, sealants, and other chemicals are to be used at the work site, and shall take all reasonable steps to post such notices even when not required by state or federal OSHA. Continuing on, this is to do with our building, student conduct, and safety committees. So the district has two tiers of these student conduct and safety committees. At the building level, they are called building, student conduct, and safety committees. They are called the district student discipline and safety committee at the district level. But the student conduct and safety committees all have to exist in every building. Members will be informed, we're adding this language, the members will be informed during in-service week how to submit safety and discipline issues to the building SCSC, and building committees shall include at least one bargaining unit member selected by volunteering or by election by the unit members of the site. We want to make sure that these committees are active, that they are available to members, and that they are being run with fidelity, and that members are participating or have the option or the ability to participate. Additionally, in discussion with the student discipline and safety committee this last month, our members of that committee are requesting this language, which is the building committee minutes will accurately reflect what's discussed at these meetings and be communicated with the members of the school or the building within a week, and will become part of the reports to the district student discipline and safety. And then under the duties of this building committee, including identifying student behavioral issues and discipline processes that are not effective, and develop plans to meet the needs of the building. Frequently, we hear concerns from principals that student behavior is a protected subject. On the other hand, we are not looking to reveal or to discuss anything that is personally identifiable about any student, but more about specific behavior issues and discipline problems within the building that are causing, particularly around safety. Secondly, this building committee will develop criteria and protocols for immediate classroom support, including communication with staff. All the criteria and protocols that are developed by the committee outline immediate response, like what to do, to call, a plan for administrative absence if there is one, and identify available resources within the building. And then outline any reentry plan for students that have to reenter due to behavior issues. And then number 3, identify and develop a plan that includes best practices for ongoing behavior management. And then finally, concerns regarding issues and processes will be first addressed with the building administrators. I'm not sure which one.
So we know that there's recently been some OSHA fines that have come down on certain buildings because they're not holding these meetings regularly and the information is not being put out and shared. Or the information that is being shared is not specific enough. It's too general. So
I don't know if fines are handed out, but certainly violations were.
in this case, there were actual fines.
Continuing on in E. This is the district student discipline and safety committee is what this section is in reference to. This is the committee that collects all the building reports, looks at district-wide safety and discipline issues that meet at least quarterly. That currently the contract says the contents of the handbook that they develop shall not be agreeable. I'd like to strike that, and that the failure to follow the procedures in the handbook is a grievable matter, which may be processed up to including arbitration. Items that the committee shall discuss quarterly in the staff handbook include standard response protocols, room clear procedures, referral forms, safety and protective equipment, building and safety and environmental procedures. And then following discussions, any changes recommended by the committee will be forwarded to the respective bargaining teams. And then additionally, the committee will review building referral data, facilities, grounds concerns, room clears, student and staff incident reports, and any other data reported by those building student safety committees. This is why having reliable reports from building committees is so important. At least accurate, especially accurate reports. Striking the language that came from the last negotiation in regards to the outdated 2015 is the last date that the student discipline handbook was revised. The ongoing work to keep that update to date is a really important process, but we'd like to just strike this one because it's unnecessary now. Additionally, under medically fragile students in I, when it comes to this section is in regards to medically fragile students, districts establishing training and protocols for care and safety of medically fragile students. So rather than the district striving to provide more than one staff for personal hygiene services, It's really important for the protection of our members when they are doing this personal hygiene with, for student, that an additional support, additional staff are available in the room, that is occurring in.
Sit down, this is pretty short too.
You could just see and stuff out.
And I trace that's asking a lot. Don't start looking ahead, don't start looking ahead.
Started upside down.
First. Don't, yeah, turn your page over, I'm waiting until Eric asks to see it. That's down on our desks until. Don't pass out.
I'm not looking at those that. All right, here.
Math,
Big reveal.
math.
Not everybody got 20. 19 is the other one.
Here, I'll
I was
take
like, I changed up on me. Did I not?
I give you 20 first on accident.
It's not, right.
I need one.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Sure. Go between the ego stable and.
That 20 comments, Alex.
Yes.
Those egos.
All Romans. Yeah. It's not good.
Okay, so required workshops. This one doesn't get open often. But currently we have language in this section where paid time beyond regular 8-hour workdays will not be required for voluntary transfers or initial hires into a program which requires additional training such as IB, AP, or added summer training. Frequently, folks are being asked to come in during the summer and do for training, go to have Summer Institute. But we are looking to strengthen that and add language where when staff are not required to take a training, but agree to participate in training that is aligned with building practices or skill improvement plans, like all of these that are listed. They will be compensated for time that required being on the regular 8-hour workday at the building's rate of pay for substitutes, which is different than other pay for required workshops, which is at the member's hourly rate. Like any finer points on that.
It's not an inclusive list, right? It's an example.
Okay. When the original language was written and we excluded IB, AP, and habit, those were kind of the only things that were happening at, in terms of summer trainings, non-paid, and that has broadened a lot, especially post-COVID. The amount of programs and they're all great stuff that the district is doing, but we've got a lot of people doing summer work, summer trainings without compensation.
Okay, so in addition, we feel that it's really important to have a well-trained staff that has access to professional support to improve their practice. And we feel that the current 6 quarter credits needs to increase to 9, especially with the number of things that I know that for many of those workshops that folks are going to, the district often asks, could you use your tuition credits for, would you be willing to use your tuition credits for that? That often will end up shorting the number in terms of other things that we want to expand or take credit, get credit for, or do things for their professional advancement. So increasing that from 6 to 9. And under B, the member can choose to use the cash equivalent of up to 6 of the credits instead of just 2 per year for costs and expenses, short-term training experiences and workshops. Just looking for some flexibility to increase the number of professional development opportunities for members and expand expand the number of things that they can use this benefit for. In 2, we've had some issues around prepayment. We are just codifying. Am I wrong? This is standard practice already. Just simply codifying the contract that prepayment for professional development will be made available by the district. If a member wishes to have prepayment, the member must obtain approval from the district within 5 business days in advance of the registration deadline. At least, sorry. Not on, but 5. You can do it ahead of time. Finally, enough for members who pay the cost of workshops or professional development upon completion of the workshop or professional development. The district will reimburse the member no later than the next pay cycle. We've had issues with when members have submitted their expenses for workshops or other professional development that they don't get paid. They're just waiting and they have to call in. We'd like to have some hard deadlines for this things. We're getting there. So the district has a great mentor program. We would like to improve on it and bring some of it into our current contract. So in the past, we've had a mentor program within the district before we got a grant that changed how mentoring happens. We see a lot of value in the previous mentoring program, which we are calling in-building mentors. So we're adding language to add the differentiation between in-building mentors and the district-wide mentorship that is currently happening due to that grant and that MOU. So in-building mentors, we would like to make sure that the district maintains an in-building mentor program in all buildings that contain a new member in the district. Similar to compensation that we're looking to increase for extra work outside the contract, moving the hourly compensation from $30 to $50 for each for the mentor, I should say. And then in F, that the district at its discretion provide additional professional lead days to support the mentorship process. That's simply clarifying language in. Again, $50 for the mentor for each hour spent per mentee performance and specified duties. Continuing the same dollar payment. In G. And then after J, we come to a section 2. This is the current district-wide new teacher mentor program. we're agreeing that members in their first or second year of teaching will participate in a new teacher mentor program with this criteria, that all qualifying members will participate in the GBSD mentoring program, that members who attend local professional development events outside their 8-hour workday, including the events in number 6 down below, will be compensated at their hourly rate. All dates for events occurring outside the members' 8-hour workday will be provided with new teacher in service in August. That all qualifying members participating in the GBSD mentoring program will receive a $1,000 stipend for missing preparation time or lunch times for meeting with their mentors. Members shall not be required to meet more than twice per month. Currently, folks are receiving $300 for the loss of prep time, which is hugely inequitable, and it's out of whack with how much time that is out of being missed by the member in terms of their preparation time. Mentors will be prohibited from performing evaluations, so they are also members of the bargaining unit, and or providing information or evidence about evaluations to administrators. So in regards to the after school, this is number 6 that was referenced above, members may be required to attend up to 7 evening events related to the district-wide new teacher mentor program. Events shall be 120 minutes or less in length with a minimum of 30 minutes of that time devoted to member-directed work and preparation purposes. And a member who cannot attend an event shall strive to give 5 days notice, and no penalty shall result from the member's absence from these events. This whole second section is largely taken from the new teacher mentor MOU, and with some, obviously, with some adjustments.
From our point of view, the 2 mentor programs are totally different. They serve totally different purposes. So.
Thanks, Sarah. And there is a big difference between someone who is not regularly in your building, they can provide fantastic feedback about your teaching practices and things like that, as well as the general day-to-day things that a teacher experiences or goes through. But an in-building mentor, we give them deeper advice or deeper help in regards to practices within a building, standard protocols, things that are unique to that building. Everything from culture to standard protocols. Okay. 23, Article 23, work year. So currently it says the members may be assigned to 2, looking to increase that to possibility of 3 days beyond the established 192, 183 workday year. Right? Because it's what is going on already. The extra days will be attached to the week of the immediate beginning or the end of the 192 workday year. The work year shall include 6 paid holidays, Labor Day, Veterans Day. The language we're looking to add is that the parties will meet prior to drafting the proposed calendar to decide if the statewide in-service day will be a non-contract day. And then in B, that with the proposed calendar, any changes to the school calendar after initial adoption shall be submitted to the council for review 10 days prior to adoption by the school. At least 10 days. And then under C, for inclement weather emergency closures, not like we've experienced that very much recently. Any days missed, they required that any days missed that will be required to be made up only if they are needed to meet state minimum instructional hours for all grade levels. So, and then if the board requires students to make up instructional hours lost due to inclement weather, the district and associations will agree on modifications to the calendar. Want to have discussions and have them early enough that adjustments to the calendar can be made that are not just simply tacking days on to the end of the school year, which is enormously disruptive. And ineffective, because many of the people that it's actually meant to All right, so the last piece there is under disaster or crisis, where things like earthquakes, fire, flood, dangerous materials, snow again, ice again, where suddenly we need to close school and, supervise, if students need to be supervised. Administration normally can identify, staff who are able to, stay beyond the regular time that, the students are there to supervise and help the students. So any staff who are thus identified as taking the regular workday shall be compensated and implemented at their hourly rate.
It's our understanding that this is what currently happens. We had, what was the year?
26.
4 years ago, 5 years ago, yeah. When the ice storm came in at like noon or whatever, right, I scrambled to get kids home. And there were just a few buildings that ended up with some students and few staff stayed. I mean, it's our understanding people who stayed got paid, right, so that's.
Or we were chaining like the buses.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we're looking at our largest and most impactful article of the 24th. So you're gonna see a significant change to the way we do school in our proposal. We're looking outside the regular Gresham-Barlow School District box of the way that we do school and looking for some alternative ways to address the issues that are ongoing, in which we cannot find any common agreement that'll meet the needs of both the district and members. So we are looking to be creative. Under A1, length of day, adding language that the principal shall identify student contact schedules for all K-8 staff at the start of the school year and notify members of any proposed changes 10 days prior to any changes. Continuing in A, but under 1B. So early release and late arrival. Early release and those late arrival days will be for students be designated by administration and will be identified on the work year calendar. This is already currently happening. At least that looks nice on this, but one of the problems that we're experiencing with arrivals is the number of days that are member directed are not enough. One particular example that was difficult for members to swallow is immediately following winter break. We came back the very first day to PD when most members were thinking about getting back in their classroom, trying to set up their day. Many districts actually have an entire staff work day immediately following a break to get everybody up to speed and get their classes really set and ready for students. This one was difficult for us to swallow. Also just being more consistent throughout the year, providing these member directed days. So in September, October, April, and the Wednesdays immediately following winter and spring break. 9 early release days shall be reserved for member collaboration time, during which members shall meet in building level administrator established groups. There's been, can you talk about that, Mark, about the building level?
I think the main focus of that is honestly sped, right? There's issues around sped. And they are required right now to, on occasion, not all of them, go to district-wide meetings in which they are no longer available to work with their staff in building. So they can't do any team planning with the teachers in their building. They can't check in about kids in their building. They can't help implement any plans, right? And they're doing, what I would think is valuable work at the district level. We need to find another time for those district-wide things, rather than having those things occur when they could be, and we would argue should be collaborating with the members of the.
Sped staff in particular wants to work with, this is one of the big things that was discussed at the table, was that opportunity at that time to collaborate with sped staff around issues for specific students and getting the time to talk about accommodation and other things that were much more effective.
If you look at the breakdown of the Wednesdays, really what we're talking about doing is converting one of the collaboration Wednesdays into a member directed Wednesday each month, essentially, right? So we're not reducing the number of PD Wednesdays that administrators control in buildings for meetings, but we're talking about trying to set up. So currently, we already had preceding Thanksgiving, winter break, and spring break, and then the third Wednesdays of February, May. So we just added in the other months that we're missing in order to set it up so that, assuming a standard month is 4 Wednesdays, obviously some of them are not, but if the standard month is 4 Wednesdays, that there's 1 collaboration Wednesday, 2 PD Wednesdays, and then 1 member directed Wednesday for each month. So the 9 should say 7.
I'll let you all observe that for a second, because that language about early release days and later resident days under our proposal would only last 1 more school. Because of what we're proposing on page 3 under C. What we're looking to create is what is called non-instructional focus. This would begin in 25, 26. And all Fridays identified on the work your calendar will be for the purposes of professional learning and training or collaborative planning, preparation, and assessment. So essentially, this is a 4-day instructional week, with Fridays being reserved for professional learning, training, collaborative planning, preparation, and assessment. District or principal directed activities shall not exceed 3 hours and 20 minutes during that day. 4 hours shall be allotted for continuous member-directed and uninterruptible preparation. Members shall receive a 40-minute duty-free lunch during the day. So typical school year is understood to contain 36 of these Fridays on the work calendar. During weeks with a paid holiday, for instance, President's Day. Non-instructional Fridays can be converted to regular instructional days at the district's discretion. These days will be identified on the work year calendar, and any changes will be subject to the conditions of the collective bargaining agreement. So this next section is just about calculation of prep time. That the calculation of prep time is later in the article. But during weeks that do not offer a non-instructional Friday, members' weekly preparation time will be calculated to reflect the additional prep period on Fridays that members receive in lieu of the non-instructional Friday preparation. Because that's a part of the prep calculation later. Weekly prep time calculation. Additionally, up to 1 hour of member-directed time at the high school level can be used for online office hours for the purposes of meeting instructional minutes as required by the state. We would set up office hours where students could meet with their instructor online 1 hour during the day. And in the event that the annual required instructional time hours identified legally are not met due to the language of the section, the association agreed to meet with the district and remedy the hours by reducing the number of non-instructional Fridays and or other mutually agreeable solutions. So that's a big chunk to chew into, but, definitely hope that, you will consider that one. Under student assessment days. Currently, we have, grading days, both full days and half days that happen at midterm, at trimester, at semester, depending on level. We're looking to set as practice, set into actually inviting what is already practiced in many cases. That full grade, day grading and half day progress reporting, conference day preparation may be performed remotely by our leaders. Under the School Instruction Assessment Professional Learning Fund, the district will allocate no less than $150,000 instead of $75,000 annually in additional compensation for members to use as authorized by the school principal following advisory recommendations from the site council. That's money that's frequently used for assessment of special projects, for standards work within the school.
When was the last time that was champion?
Probably when the article was written.
Right. And since we're paying people an hourly rates have gone up, the 75,000 just doesn't go very far. Right?
Similar to the increases here.
Right. I know for my science department, Gresham High, we used to be able to meet in teams and we could get a good chunk, a good number of hours. And now if we want to do it like cost wise, we're down to like, we get like 90 minutes or 2 hours or something. And all the site council went wrong, right? So it just doesn't go far anymore. So that's the thought process behind that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just still going through this. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about in the 4-day work week, or I'm sorry, 4-day instructional week, that I'm going to get to later. But this next piece is was actually a move that I didn't mention previously. Currently, it says members in their first or second year of the district may be required to attend up to 7. This was moved to our page 3 on Article 22. In the second section about the district's the district-wide new teacher mentor program in our number 6. So that's simply a move with some adjustment to the language within it. And I've already gone over these. Under D, members perform curriculum work. We'll be looking to change the compensation away from BA step 1 to a different chart based upon the numbers of the step level for the member. So anyone doing curriculum work who are on step 1 through 3 will be compensated an hourly rate of BA2. Members on step 4 through 6 will be compensated an hourly of MA1. And anyone step 6 or above, or I'm sorry, above step 6 will be compensated an hourly rate of MA1 plus 23. Moving on to structure of the workday. Any changes in the structure of the members' workday will be communicated to the council. That's us, at least 60 working days in advance of the implementation. Yeah, it's really no change in practice. So next change is in D for daily and weekly prep of the work.
I just was thinking that I do think that is a change in practice because the 2 months are 2 calendar months and 60 working days are longer.
Under 10, actually, we have a under IDE compensation, striking the his or her pronouns and simply inserting their regular 8-hour day. No change in practice, just change in language. But under daily and weekly prep time. So. The daily and weekly prep time for the first year of the contract will be as it is currently. But beginning in, actually at the beginning of the 24. For the language for 24-25 will be the same as it was between 21 and 23. So this current contract. Beginning in 25-26, those numbers will change. So instead of 525, it will be 700 minutes weekly. One thing about the 4-day instructional week is that it gains a lot of efficiencies that allow for a lot more training time, PD, collaboration meetings, and for member prep time on that Friday. And that increase is not an increase in the prep time in the 4 days, with the exception of K-5. The exception of elementary, there is additional minutes, but and it's entirely right now. It's just, so for elementary, we're looking at 700 weekly minutes. But the biggest change, so there's 480 of that 700 will be member directed, scheduled, and uninterruptible. Within the 700 minutes, each elementary member will receive a minimum. Instead of 25, we're looking to increase that in the instructional week to 30 minutes. Aside from that, all of the increases in prep time are due to the additional amount of time during those Fridays, non-instructional Fridays. Mark?
I would just want to reiterate that and say our intent with our language, with our intent was, and hopefully our math matches, is that we took current preparation times and then we added what our new Friday time would be. And we just added those together, and that's where our minutes are coming. So Monday through Thursday, we're not looking for any change in practice except for the loss of prep time on Wednesday, because we would assume that you guys would move away from Wednesday late starts if we went to a Friday non-instruction. So we based our math on Monday through Thursday, what's current practice with Wednesday change, plus the Friday times.
And the elementary school, 30 minutes.
25 to 30, yeah.
And that's the new piece, that total weekly minutes is.
Similar, no real change in time for the instructional time for middle school. The weekly minimum for middle school will be 288 minutes. Uninterruptible prep period of no less than 40 minutes. In addition, non-student contact Fridays shall include 240 minutes of uninterruptible prep time. Blocks of 20 minutes or less during the student days are not to be counted for purposes of meeting the 288 minutes of prep time. And up to 4 times per year scheduling may necessitate the loss of the data prep period. At high school, looking to strike all of the language in regards to 2004, 2005. It's block schedule, it's 20 years ago. And looking to strike that language. And simply inserting that high school teachers will receive a minimum of 420 minutes of weekly member directed uninterruptible prep time. And at least one daily uninterruptible member directed prep period of no less than 90 minutes. Blocks of 20 minutes or less would be counted for purposes of meeting the 460 minutes. 420 minutes. It says 60. Oh, oops. So close. Of weekly prep time. The number is right. Where's it wrong? At the bottom of 3. Go for it.
So the district has run now 2 different high school schedule committees over the last 5 years. And the last one was 2022, so still recent. There was a significant amount of staff input, parent community input, and student input. And I think we interviewed 5 or 6 different schools from around the state of Oregon. And the consensus was we need to move away from our 7th period day. And we need to move to some kind of a block or a trimester where students are going to less classes each day. There's more instructional time in the class period. We're moving away from these class periods that are 45 minutes, 50 minutes at the longest, right? The trimester thing is tricky for a number of reasons. So it seemed like a standard A-B block was kind of the general consensus that everybody landed on. So when we ran our numbers for how do we pull off a non-instructional Friday and still guarantee that high school was getting their 990, the way to do that is by going to block schedule. If we were to move to block schedule right now, we would have less transitions that students are going through. They're spending less time out in the hallway, which is generally where they're causing most of the problems, right? Less tardies, so on and so forth. And we gain just by the switch, right? Not even looking at how long class periods are, just by getting rid of all those additional passing periods, we gain 44 hours of instructional time back. That's how much time we are wasting, right? This non-instructional time. That's the difference. I'm not saying that's the total passing time of the 7th period day. That's the difference in passing time between the 7th period day and an AB block. It is substantial, right? And then now you're talking about AB. AB fits really nicely on a 4-day instructional week, right? So prioritizing the instructional days when we have things like holidays and essentially guaranteeing and saying to families and students at the high school level, your student will always have 4 days of instruction every single week. We're going to set it up this way, and it's going to be consistent across the calendar. And they're going to go to all their classes twice, right? So as a teacher, if I'm planning lessons and I'm organizing things and I'm putting things together, it just causes a lot of things to really line up in terms of organization and how we run our building. One of the things we acknowledged in the committee, in all of us, we all acknowledge this, is it's going to be a huge shift instructionally for us to go from something we've been doing for 12 years, something that we didn't want to do, but we were forced to do because we were not meeting the instructional hours coming out of the financial crisis, 2009. We were just in a really, really difficult spot. And that's why we made that change in 2012 to go to the 7th period instructional day. We didn't do it because we thought it would be the greatest schedule for kids. We didn't do it because we thought it would be this amazing schedule that will allow all this additional flexibility, right? We did it because it was the only way that we could not lay off more teachers and we could meet the 990 for high school and meet the state requirements.
And if I could just add, just quickly, when he says we, he's referring to the district, right? And so we as a district were forced into that 7 period schedule. I don't think anyone from the district advocated it as a solution to anything other than it saved us money and allowed us to not cut as many people.
Okay. So I have some more things to say about the 4-day instructional week. One thing is that we see time for one of the biggest concerns for the 4-day instructional week is what do you do with the students on that 5th day? And frequently we would see that would be something for the district to come up with solutions for, but there are going to be a lot more hands available, particularly among our classified staff to provide the help with students at school level that they would create, that the district would create, programs, bring in partners, do a wide variety of activities to occupy students. The students, of course, would need, many students need to come in for food and, but it's an opportunity for enrichment and other things that would really benefit students. They're not really necessarily getting in a 5-day school week. Everything from the physical activity and physical education type of activities to arts and crafts or things that could benefit them mentally, emotionally. And like,
It's also a good opportunity at the high school level. When students are sick and need to make up work or tests, we don't have that access period. And then it's always becomes a difficult point in trying to schedule when they have access to teachers and touching base. Well, if you don't have the same lunch period, or if a student can't stay after because they're a Cal student or something, then it becomes really problematic on trying to schedule makeup exams or time to meet, to kind of catch students up. And so providing that Friday where students can come in, make up exams, spend one-on-one time with teachers, get caught up, get extra help, opens up that possibility as well.
Credit recovery is also an option. There are a lot of students right now that just have an open class period on their 7th grade schedule, and they go to the library where they're supervised by a classified staff where the students are working on ingenuity, right? They're working on their credit recovery. That Friday morning, same exact thing could be happening. Students could be coming into school. They could be getting some one-on-one with a handful of support staff that are there while the rest of staff are in some kind of PD, whether it's collaborative PD or trainings. There's so much. I just went to the SEL, Social Emotional Learning Committee meeting last week, and it's like, oh, we have a whole nother set of curriculum that we have to figure out how to implement, right? And train everyone, and all the lessons have to be designed, right? And it's a state mandate, it's a requirement, right? That we teach all of these standards. And like, when are we gonna have the time to sit down and go through this stuff together as staff? There's a lot of things that keep coming up. And I know in my building, we feel very pressed for time. So Wednesdays aren't enough. And there's no other time available, right? The amount of things that we need to be able to work through as a staff, the ability for certain staff members to be pulled out and work at a district level team or something that's always in conflict with the building level meetings, right? So we're looking for a win-win-win all the way across the board for everybody.
so continuing 5. This is about, currently we have language that members of case managed students who require an IEP. We are simply adding those members who manage students with a 504. We saw a dramatic increase in the workload for this. This is often work that goes to counselors. A dramatic increase in workload due to additional legislation this last legislative session for students who are in school for only part of a day. For those, not only those who manage IEPs, but also those with 504s. So it's the amount of workload that goes on to counselors is pretty dramatic. We're looking for additional protections for their time so that they have time to get their work done. So the first part of A, that we are adding 504s to this section. And then in A, this is a language change only, not a change in practice, that that the 2 hours of case management time is member directed. And that's for IEP and mandated documents. That's what the time is used for. And that they shall have 1 class period of member directed case management time per day within the student contact, no reduction guaranteed prep for or lunchtime at the middle and high school level. And that these folks are not going to be required to supervise students during this preparation, case management time, and their duty-free lunch.
And that again is not a change in practice.
Thank you. I don't know why there was a change in that D. Is that's not a change, is it?
The letter D, it's because we inserted.
Oh, because we had said, yeah, done. That's all.
We actually numbered it correctly.
Yes, we did. Number 6, frequently folks are having to ask for 504. The folks that manage 504s are often have to go begging to their building principal for the release time. This has to come out of building funds. We want $100,000 set aside as a bank for those from the district office for these buildings to be able to tap, so that these folks can take this time without it reducing building level funds.
Some of you may remember when we first put this language in the contract, we started with a bank of funds for IEP case managers. And they were tapping that fund in order for us to kind of track and see how much time is it taking people, like how much, we know what the value of an hour is, right? So how many hours are people putting in outside of their 8-hour workday? And that's a similar idea here with 6. We were able to take that, and then once we figured out what it was, we found language that worked for the IEP case managers, which has now been in the contract for 7 or 8 years, and we took away the bank of funds. So now that we're establishing this idea of 504 work, which is primarily on counselors, we're looking to add that bank of funds. And again, we don't want it to be a controversy between them and their building principal, right? Buildings should not be financially punished because you've got counselors who have this massive workload of 504s and they can't get it done within their workday because they're seeing students, right? So they end up doing it outside of their workday, and then they're putting it for ATTW, and it becomes kind of this awkward conversation about time, right? Well, if you just use your time more efficiently, you could have gotten this done, right? And we don't feel like buildings should be punished for this. We feel like the district should set up some money from their district account and just make it a line item. And this is something that everybody across the state is wrestling with right now. The number of 504s have gone up dramatically, and sometimes they're simple and sometimes they're not. They require a bit more time.
Mark?
And the only thing I would add is, I mean, honestly, the all additions to time work will be granted. That's just my attention. And that's practice from when we did this with the IEPs. And so we had an agreement that everyone would put in, their time would be approved. If the district saw any patterns that concerned them, then they would meet with us and we would talk about it, and the association could address it with the member. And so that was practice. As far as I know, we had one concern ever that was brought to the association, and other than that, no others.
Okay, following on to number 3, duties in lieu of teaching. So this is as long as the district has a block schedule at the high school. The high school members may be assigned 1 daily hallway duty for the duration of the passing time only. And generally it's understood that those passing times are going to be no more than 5 minutes in length. So just providing additional support always to maintain the discipline that is important. Yes, having the presence of an adult in the hallway. Reasonable schedules, adding language here to limit the number of grading or grade or subject area preps for high school teachers, so that they have no more than 2 teaching assignments each semester. Different preps include advisory, cluster classes, DLI, or co-taught classes. That limit doesn't include, doesn't apply to elective programs, because frequently like music program will have different grade levels and different types of preps for, each of them. Elementary school specialists shall not have more than 9 classes with students per day. That's music, PE, art, and if we ever bring it back, language. Coming back around to counselors again, counselors shall not have more than 20% of their contracted time spent on program planning or school support activities. When a counselor is providing responsive services to address a student's immediate concerns and needs, their role shall be limited to counseling, consultation, or referrals. We're hearing about situations where counselors are being asked to put out a fire with a particular student, and having to bring a student and calm a student down, and then continuing that in their role, but provide the counseling after an incident has occurred. What we're looking for is for someone else to step in, get the students calm down, and then pass them off to the counselor to address the needs of the student. So,
Yeah. You've got counselors, I mean, you got a full-time person and they're chasing 1 or 2 kids around all day, right? It might be better to think about staffing in terms of EAs or behavior coaches or things like that. Often, the counselors are tapped because they don't have instructional periods with kids, right? They're flexible. And a lot of our elementaries, the counselors are kind of seen as vice principals, which makes sense, right? Because there's not enough administrators for the number of students who are presenting needs. And if the counselor was seeing the kid after the kid had de-escalated a little bit and they're ready to talk through it, that seems like the appropriate time for the counselor to be with that student. The districts and all the counselors currently have a handbook. This language is directly out of that handbook. When we think about a comprehensive school counselor model, which the district just sent a team of people down to San Diego this past week, got training on from the National School Counseling Association. This is what counselors are supposed to be doing with students. They're not supposed to be spending more than 20% of their time on these support activities. And they do an annual time, what do you call it? But they write it all out, like what did you do with your time? They do an annual calculation, I guess would maybe be the term to use to kind of see where are we at, right? How much time are we spending on the various activities? They're supposed to be running groups. They're supposed to be pushing the classrooms, right? They're supposed to be pulling kids out and then working with kids in small teams of 3 or 4. And when they have to go respond to a student that's blowing out or running, and then they have to cancel all those other things that they were doing, they're now serving 1 student when they could have been serving dozens of students, right? So that's what this language is attempting to address.
And if I could just add quickly, right, I mean, to summarize that for me, we want our counselors counseling. If you look at the needs of our kids over the last year, let alone 5 years or 10 years, right, that need for a good, solid counseling program where the counselor is providing support to kids who need that support, that's hugely important for our schools right now. And we hear from especially our K-8 counselors that they are drawn away from the things that they would like to be doing from a counseling standpoint into student management sort of things or other things, right? And we think that our kids need their counselor to be their counselor. And so that's what this language is about for us.
And just to go up to the top of 4, when we're talking about limiting the grade subject to credits for high school, the addition of advisory as a standalone class with another passing period has not been successful. It's another opportunity for kids to go out in the hall, to cause mischief. We have students that just blatantly refuse to attend advisory. They'll just stand in the hall with their friends. We have at Gresham High a mass exodus of students that just leave the building, go to Dutch Brothers or whatever, and then they come back late to third period because it's in between second and third period. We need to move back to the model that we had prior to the pandemic, where we just simply extended a class period and we had second period or whatever you want it to be a little bit longer, and the teacher delivers whatever lesson or watches whatever, video thing or whatever they're doing, right? And the teacher has the flexibility whether they want to front load that at the beginning of their lesson, they want to do it in the middle, they want to do it at the end, right? And what that also does is that means that teachers are delivering these lessons with students that they already know and see every single day. Right now with advisory, you've got teachers seeing students only once per week. Attendance is very problematic, so building those relationships with these students is challenging. And I understand the need to do it by grade level, so I have seniors this year, so it's been nice. I started with sophomores and I've kind of grown up with these kids, which has been nice. But you've got, teachers who teach senior level social studies and they were freshman level advisory. They don't know who these kids are. And they only see them once per week for 30 minutes, if the kids even show up to advisory. So asking them to just step in and have some of these conversations or deliver some of these social emotional learning lessons, it's just not successful. And if they were doing it with their second period class or whatever class period you want it to be, well, they have a relationship with those students. They've been with them all school year, right? So it's a much more successful model of implementation of whatever those advisory lessons are going to be, in my opinion, as an educator.
Okay. Thanks. Yep. Number 4 on page 11. Just in regards to these the district level class size and student load caseload committee. That the number of characteristics of special needs students, we're including language that would add multilingual learners. We found that with the dramatic increase in multilingual learners, particularly in our high school, that it has a dramatic impact on those classes that they're attending because they frequently cluster those students together. And so they're receiving services together, but then they travel and have a dramatic impact on the needs of those individual classes when it comes to class size. And so the needs of the students are greater, the needs for that classroom are greater, and the addition of help in those classes is greater. So we want to have that. In addition to the work of the class size committee is in 5E, we talked about a situation where a class size for student load exceeds the desirable level. The options that the committee can choose would be to strike no change due to financial or physical space-time limitation. There's always changes the district can make. We would like those changes to be implemented instead of throwing our hands up at the end of the meeting and say, well, nothing can be done. We need to just deal with it as it is. We are looking to implement in number 6, the student contact threshold compensation model. So essentially, each of these levels, each of these teaching positions would have a class size threshold or a caseload threshold. And the numbers are next to each of these positions. For instance, 20 at kindergarten, 150 for middle school teachers, 160 for high school teachers, et cetera. For folks like physical therapists, 40 students, school counselors, 1 to 250 students. So members shall be compensated. To look at how this model works, you look at number 2, halfway down, 2/3 of 3/4 of the way down page 13. Members shall be compensated based on the number of students over the threshold listed in the table as a percent of the threshold multiplied by $2,000 for each month that the threshold is exceeded. So for the examples are a 4th grade elementary teacher who has a class of 30, that's 2 over the threshold of 28. You then take that number over the threshold divided by that 28, come up with your multiplier for the decimal to figure out times 2,000. And so that would be $142 additional per month they are compensated. The other example is a speech language pathologist, like our own Ted here. Student contact of 70, 10 over the threshold, 10 divided by 60. That would be compensation of $333 per month. So the class size and student load calculations will be made by the class size committee by the end of the 3rd full week of school and at the end of the 2nd full week of the 2nd semester of each school year. Teacher assistants selected by the member are not counted by part of the class size, classroom size. Overload pay shall be calculated using the 2 class size reports described above, paid out evenly over October through January and February through June. And then members working less than 1 FTE shall have their class size student load prorated for the purpose of this article.
And just for clarity, that would not apply to the elementary level. Elementary levels are just class sizes, right, and not the caseloads, and so that would not apply to the elementary.
Moving on to substituting. In F, members may agree to sub during their prep time at their hourly rate, which is our current contract. Getting down to adding a new number 3, that school psychologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and speech language pathologists shall not substitute. These folks are not trained in classroom management for the most part, unless they were educators first or educators second. But as by and large, they are not set up to be effective substitutes.
Most not licensed in substitute. Right?
Exactly. Great, did you have a question about class size?
I just wanted to clarify the case of the language applies to element, but it's. Can you say that again? Is that?
Caseload, it's just specifically class size, the prorated estimate is not count.
But you're going to be for the rest of it.
Caseload, like I said, caseload does count across the board.
Yeah, you're not gonna take a 0.8 elementary and take 0.8 to 24 kids, you know what I mean?
Looking to add a new section we're calling equity committee. The district will establish a fund to create an equity committee at each building that does not reduce building level funds. Members who agree to participate in a building level equity committee shall be compensated at the rate of $40 per hour. That's the same amount that we're asking for any position. The district will allocate at least 8% of building level professional development time for racial and intersectional equity training by a qualified entity. We want to bring folks in who are qualified to do the equity training and not have something that's pulled up off the shelf. And then in an effort to support members who identify as Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC, or LGBTQ+ as identified by the Human Rights Campaign, the district agrees to A, identify resources to support and strengthen our affinity groups. And B, provide BIPOC and LGBTQ plus staff with information and opportunities to participate in racially and culturally specific affinity space in lieu of professional time outlined in 3. The idea being frequently folks who are part of these groups are often looked upon as examples or as the reason the training is happening and feel targeted by fellow staff or by trainers. So want to give them time to participate in other culturally specific affinity spaces during that time. That's all we're for. We'll worry about that. Good news. Thank you. Give you our salary proposal. Well, they're sitting there. We maybe not the bullet first. Well, we realize the districts, which eventually.
I did.
Okay. Well, it's all over that here.
Yeah.
That's, right side mark.
I will.
Pull the whole thing, because it doesn't take.
Nothing. Thank you.
So, we took a long look at the district's finances and and we also evaluated where we sit in comparison with other districts in the Metro 14, 14 districts in the metro area. Took into consideration whether there was 6% PERS pickup. The state. Oh, right. You're not supposed to be guessed.
I know.
So looking for the salary schedule to be increased in the first year of this contract by 9%. Striking the language around the change that we implemented in the last negotiation to for folks to start at level 2 instead of level 1. So simply employing the language that no employee shall be placed on step 1 of the salary schedule. And then that's being moved to B. Then in 24 and 25, increasing for cost of living 5%. And then in the last year of the contract would be 4% for the 26-27 school year.
Where are we now on the Metro 14?
We are at 12.
And where would this potentially put us? 3.
So makes us competitive, not the top level. And is something is a salary increase that by our calculations is affordable for the district, given the financial health of the district, as well as the outlook for additional funding from the state. So salary placements. No employee shall be placed on step 1 of the salary schedule, nor shall step 1 be used in any initial placement calculation. We had a disagreement at the table. This was never discussed. But we felt at the time that we were placing all folks at step 2, that would be the beginning step for calculating if folks came in with experience. The district in this last year has been calculating folks who have come new to the district but have had experience in other places, that step 1 is used in calculation of the numbers of years of experience in their placement on the salary schedule. We are looking to eliminate that practice. So in C, previous teaching experience and or experience credit. So currently the district may grant additional steps of initial salary placement based on a member's relevant industry or non-teaching employment experience. That for every 2 years of non-teaching experience, 1 year of salary advancement shall be given at a minimum. Just helping to inform how that calculation should happen when you're employing somebody with relevant industry or non-teaching employment experience.
It's our current understanding that the district is employing a 3-to-1 calculation for folks. That's what we've had members who were told. So we've had people who come in with relevant non-teaching experience, and they have, let's say, 7 years of that experience, and you apply a 3-to-1, and they say, okay, we'll put you on step 2. Well, that's what someone who comes with 0 years of experience is being placed on. They're being placed on step 2. So it was very controversial last year as we were looking at the settlement that happened and how we were no longer putting people on step 1. And then we realized how the district was calculating this relevant industry and non-teaching employment experience. And we had people that were pretty upset because they believed that when they interviewed for the job that they were going to be given, some level of salary advancement. They did not believe that they were going to start in the same exact place as someone who was fresh out of college and starting their first year of teaching. So that's where our specific 2-to-1 value comes from.
Continuing on to national board certification. On page 3, adding language so that folks who have national board certification with an MA 23, so placement on the MA 23 for all of their collegiate work, all of their credits, that they are at that far right edge, plus having the addition of board certified certification, that they would receive an additional 5% stipend of their annual pay. If they've done the additional work of going and becoming board certified, it just makes them a better practitioner. They should be compensated for that. In I, doctorate members who hold a doctorate in the field of assignment shall receive an additional 5% stipend of their annual pay. And then we're looking to incorporate 2 different types of longevity stipends. So one is an incentive to get folks to stay through the entire contract. So members who are employed this year, 23-24 with the school year, and who who work through the entire next contract, which is the last contracted date of June 2027, will receive a $3,000 stipend in June 23rd salary check. So a $3,000 stipend for working through the entire contract. And then for those members who accrue 15 or more years of service in any licensed position, regardless of employer, so they could have come from other schools, but being 15 years or more in service, they'll receive an annual longevity stipend. These are folks who are really going to be at the top of our salary schedule, and are not receiving any kind of additional compensation moving forward other than cost of living. that they will receive an annual longevity stipend equal to 10% of their years of service multiplied by the annual salary. So for instance, someone who has 15 years of service would receive a 1.5% stipend. In other words, 1.5% of their current placement on the salary schedule. If you're working 40 years of service. You get a 4% stipend. Okay, this just rewards folks for sticking around, bringing their expertise and the quality of their instruction. Bringing it to the classroom and being rewarded by and recognizing their contributions to our district. In K, we're looking to incorporate some things that are currently in practice. District granted credit for salary schedule advancement to members who participate in district approved workshops or activities that do not offer traditional credit. District service committee, district committee service, curriculum development, individual programs, or projects may qualify. The amount of credit granted shall be equal to 1 hour of credit or 10 hours of participation. Those requesting in district credit shall apply to the district, to the executive director of human resources, or the designee prior to the activity.
If I could just.
Go ahead.
We did not mean that this to be exhaustive. Right, those are examples after the first sentence of things that could qualify. That doesn't mean those are the only things that qualify.
In L, we're looking to incorporate the PGA MOU. This is the Professional Growth Academy. That they'll be able to use those units for salary advancement equivalent to college credits. Those units, once earned, will be irrevocable regardless of the continuation of the PGA program. Of course, we feel that the district could, instead of providing, could give members the option of paying for taking these classes. Currently, we're only offering credit and advancement, but it doesn't mean that they can't provide compensation, but that they can provide credit for salary advancement.
The main reason that a payment rather than credit would be good would be like for me, I'm maxed out, right? So I have no incentive. I'll get back to that, to take one of these courses other than my own personal growth, which is a huge thing, but otherwise I have no incentive.
And that's also where the two stipends come in from the National Board Certified and the PhD. If you are someone who has their master's with their 23 graduate credits, there's no financial incentive for you to keep your National Board certification or for you to pursue a doctorate degree. Many districts have an additional column on their salary schedule that is specific to folks doing things like getting a doctorate. So in lieu of trying to create a whole other column on the salary schedule, we went this route. Obviously, there is a financial incentive. Let's say I only got my master's and I never went back and got the additional 23 credits. Having my National Board certification allows me to slide over on the column. That is a financial improvement. And they would not, those people would not qualify for the additional 5%. They have to both have their National Board certification and they have to have their master's with the 23 credits, right? So.
Yeah, we got quite a few things to go to, Rachel. We're gonna talk about insurance next. Thank you. So when it comes to insurance, we are striking the whole dollar amount, with the exception of the $1,475 per month per eligible member established during this school year. shall be increased by an average of the mean average of the association selected OEB plans. Every year, the association selects the plans that are offered to its members. The district would take the cost of those plans and the average increase, would figure out the mean average increase of those plans and increase the district's contribution to match that. We have 100% of our members qualify or are part of the insurance pool. The thing is that with the limitation that OEBB sets of 3% increases per year, that the insurance companies are finding other ways to overcome losses that they are experiencing by decreasing the quality of service that is provided with these insurance plans. So we'd like to keep our increases on par with what, so that we continue with 100% of our members in the pool. But what we're looking to do is take and, for instance, I can use myself as an example. My oldest had to go in for wisdom teeth surgery, and we had to pay $650 out of pocket for their anesthesia. It wasn't covered by our plan. So the section 125 would allow members to take the $300, we're moving from $100 to $300 with contributions to the qualified section 125 plan. Striking the language that any district contributed unspent funds remaining in the members section 125 shall revert to the district in accordance with section 125 rules. If any money remains in that section 125 plan, it would roll. Right? Mm-hmm. And then the insurance plans offered to members shall be selected by the association and reported to the district 20 days prior to the start of the following school year. No less than 20 days, I should say. Under long-term disability insurance, monthly benefit up to 60% of the employee's basic earnings, striking to a maximum of $8,000 per month. The amount of money that it's going to cost, having to set dollar amount is with inflation happening at the rate that it's happening. It doesn't make sense in regards to the long-term disability benefit. Trying not to see things. Under M, you're looking to strike an ancient piece of language that happened in the 2010s. No, I think it was actually in 2000. For an exploratory insurance committee. So looking to add that if any language changes, any healthcare changes are required by federal state law, the association and district will discuss these changes and how to proceed before they happen.
Yeah, we put that language in 2015. You might remember back, Brian. Yeah, we were considering going to that high deductible, right? And we never sat down and actually thought about it. It was too complicated. So it's an option that a lot of smaller districts are using, but it wasn't an option that we pursued.
My next piece is retirement. So the retirement language here provides several benefits to folks who are retiring, only retiring early, including insurance and additional benefits, monetary benefits to members. But what it does indeed is it sets a limit to the members who are eligible for this. And so any unit members beginning regular employment currently after June 30th, 1989 are not eligible for sections A through C. We would like to extend that to 2009 so that more members can take advantage of these retirement benefits. We are looking to expand the officer retirement payment of unused sick leave days. It's currently valued at $45, increasing it to $55 per work day. And that is all of the retirement. Sorry.
Don't let it fall.
Still going?
Oh, we already passed them out in lower levels.
So Article 31 is extra duty compensation. It's an article that doesn't get a lot of attention, except for those folks who receive extra duty. But it's also caused a number of issues around bargaining, around specific pieces that are always, they cause us problems. So we're looking to fix some of that. Under high school, under letter E, day classes, number 5, high school dance chaperones, currently $50 an hour. They cannot get people to chaperone at $50 per event. But if we increase that to $50 an hour, well, certainly we could get coverage for folks to chaperone dances. Am I right, Lisa?
Yeah.
Yes. Number 15, we're looking to move middle school OST coordinators. Looking to move it into a part of the table lower down, and we'll talk about that in a minute. It's part of an MOU currently. Specialty assignment stipends. So currently we have a dual language immersion DLI stipend. It's at elementary. With the ending of this in 3 years, the students that are at these DLI schools will be moving into middle school. I'd like to see that DLI program continue into middle school. So we're making it elementary and secondary dual language immersion members. That includes, currently includes core content classroom members. We would like to expand that to folks who do a lot of the work and have to do much of their a lot of additional work for their classroom and for their professional work. So that includes classroom teachers, reading specialists, counselors, teachers, special assignment coaches, subject area specialists, and new teacher mentors. All these folks have to do additional work in a second language and prepare materials in a second language in order for the program to work. That work should be honored with additional pay. So they'll also be given additional 3 days of pay still. But one thing that we'd like to change about those 3 days at the beginning of the school year is that they'll be structured like the rest of the opening days of school, with 1/2 of the time reserved for member-directed work purposes. These teachers will receive a stipend equivalent instead of 5% of BA step 2 to being 10% of BA step 2. We'd like to create bilingual stipends. So this is increasing also some of the work around equity that we're trying to incorporate in the contract. All certified members who demonstrate proficiency via the stamped assessment in a language that's spoken by more than 10% of the student population of one of the schools that they serve will receive a stipend equivalent to 7% of BA step 2. on the license hour schedule. Similar for someone who demonstrates proficiency in a second language, that is spoken by 10% or less of the student population, of the schools they serve, of one of the schools they serve. They would get a 5% PA step 2. Continuing into the D, which is the certified special education members. Incorporating the same language that we are looking to install for DLI teachers, that would they be structured at the beginning of the school year with 1/2 of the time reserved for member-directed purposes. That's at a minimum. Like, all of that time could be provided for the members if the district did not need time to work with them. So, additionally, the stipend for the sped teachers would increase from 5% to 10% of BA step 2. And then, for a position that's going to be particularly difficult to find and hire, looking to incentivize folks to apply here is the certified special education members who serve in the dual language program using the partner language will receive the special education stipend and the dual language stipend. Manpreet, do you have anything to add to any of the specialty stipends? No. Okay.
The only thing I would add is we're trying to make our district an attractive place for very hard to find positions. So that's our intent, is to make it easier for us to find people who can expand programs that we appreciate as a district.
I'd like to create, in a new 11, after contingent, of an extra duty committee. Frequently, I'll hear about things that pop up, a new extra duty that's been created by the district for folks who are doing extra duty work where the work is out of alignment with the pay. So we'll have to create this extra duty committee just to create lines of communication between the association and the district. So I created this extra duty committee to be established to review extra duty positions and compensation. The committee will meet at least 2 times each year, formulate and approve recommendations by a majority of the vote of the members. They'll be part of the negotiations team of the district association, that the district will provide the association with an annual report by September 1st, outlining which activity positions were funded the previous year, including building location, names of those who held the positions, and the costs associated with those positions. If new activity positions are proposed, compensation shall be determined by the negotiations between the bargaining teams and the district and the association. The membership of the activity committee shall be as follows: 4 members appointed by the district, 3 members appointed by the association, and the association bargaining chair or their designee. And then the district and association will each have representation from each level, so elementary, middle, and high. Any approved changes to this article will be recorded in a document mutually available to both the district and association, and updates will be part of negotiations and successor agreement by the district and association. In other words, changes from that committee would then go into the successor agreement negotiations, which we're all doing right now. So we get to the tables and the different pay classes for all the different types of positions: coaches, activity directors, advisors, all kinds of athletic directors, website coordinators. These tables have not been updated, and our extra duty is behind other school districts. So there's two essential models. We're looking to increase the percentage of base of their compensation by 2% across the board, and looking to reduce the numbers of years that it takes to get to the top percent of base. So instead of a head basketball coach, for them to take 8 years of coaching for them to get to the top level, instead of what we're looking for is 3, it really doesn't make sense. So they would only those coaches would only have to coach for 3 or more years to get to the top level percentage of base for their compensation. We're adding a new position into the robotics at high school. So we have a robotics team with a robotics coach. And that's where their compensation should be. Our current MOU for middle school OST coordinators is at age with 8, 9, or 10% of base. Actually, it's currently 6, 7, or 8% of base, and we're 8, 9, or 10% of base. That's all of the work in the tables. Additional language after the table, all members performing an improved extra duty position more than 10 years will receive an additional 5% pay. Coaches who agree to provide an out-of-season practice plan will receive an additional 5% pay. Coaches who agree to run a study hall before or after practices during the season shall receive an additional $500 stipend. Coaches who create and implement an approved fundraising plan shall receive an additional $500 stipend. And coaches, club advisors, and others who agree to transport students by taking improved training will receive a $500 stipend. We have buses, I believe at least, I know the Barlow bus.
They were shared by all the schools. The small white buses, they go to living.
Well, they need to get training.
Call them all us.
They should be compensated for. We are making some changes to positions for extended season. Yeah, changing the title to positions that mark with an X as opposed to C chart on the following page, which is never on the following page. It's always on the same page. So instead of having boys soccer, girls soccer, we're just saying soccer. It's redundant. Incorporating cheer and dance into extended seasons. Same thing with water polo, striking the differentiation between boys and girls. Same with basketball. We're adding extended seasons for Skills USA, robotics, youth legislature, and chess. Whether or not those positions or those particular activities do things is a question, but they're possible. Right? That is Article 3. Anything?
Not for motion. You know, I wouldn't agree.
Can't fit in the body, Bruce. You were.
I'll get it on. I handed your copies.
All right. Changing language in Article 33, miscellaneous provisions under maintenance of standards. So, looking to strike all of the maintenance of standards language that we currently have and incorporating instead that all conditions of employment shall be maintained at not less than the highest minimum standards in effect at the time the agreement is signed. This agreement shall not be interpreted or applied to the private employees and professional advantages heretofore enjoyed unless expressly stated herein. Basically, what's in this contract would continue if the successor agreement is not reached or we're moving on to the next school years. Bruce, do you have anything to add to that?
Maintenance of standards.
Maintenance of standards, no. You have things to add to that, Mark?
Mark and Cyrus are chatting with us. I know what those. So you did anything you want to say about these? Oh, I see. We don't want that. Yeah.
Full for the term of the agreement. It's gonna be for 3 years, obviously. I think we saw that one coming. I have. So Article 35, professional services. Whatever members are needed to serve a committee. Okay, compensation, or, strike, we're gonna make the assumption that compensation is going to happen. There are no volunteer committees. Well. Voluntary without that, correct. No, okay,
Sorry for discussion.
So. Striking language that if the presentation causes. Changing it to if there is a loss of preparation time. And getting rid of the, if any, at the end, the administration shall indicate at any time for request for services, how many hours of paid time are being authorized, making the assumption hours of paid time. Are authorized.
It's not uncommon for an email to go out from a principal asking for volunteers to help with something. And there's no additional information. Like, it doesn't say, do I get paid, do I not get paid? It doesn't say how many hours it's gonna take. It's just like, oh, we're just throwing the net out there and seeing if we can get some people who are interested, right? Well, we would like a little bit more information to be in that initial message that goes out. And I may just be speaking from my high school experience here, but this happens frequently at high school.
So appendix A, we made no changes to these,
We have enough to do. We have enough to do.
I don't know, I was gonna say.
we've not updated them, they are the current, they're the current ones, they simply opening it because we know that it's gonna be open.
Brian are really excited. We used that sign on.
I like.
One thing that stands out to us is that there is just a weird oddity between steps 7 and 8 in the MA. Was it all 7 and 8 are weird?
No.
No,
I
it's
didn't
in
say
the 8.3.
Yeah, it's really not, I mean, such an insignificant change, like 0.03% 0.02% change.
He's on page 7. Look
On
at
the
it.
very last page, appendix 7. And this always causes questions among our members. Why did my pay not go up this year? Because you got to pay a whole bunch from last year and you're continuing. So it's. But we don't know how to fix it without, causing additional consternation. Nationality, concern. Okay. Any questions about appendix? We're not taking questions.
You were testing to your point.
Yes.
I have a question about the terms of agreement.
You said that's so serious?
I really get there.
No. All right,
A note on appendix B, we're not officially proposing that it be appendix. The lowercase t will be wrong.
I like the six. That's cool. What you? On page 2, there was some disagreement about, between the association and the district in regards to, the addition of advisory period. And I'm gonna leave it at that. The association sees that if someone is part-time and they have to teach an advisory period, that it's this chunk of time during the day that is not, that is added to their part-time schedule. And they really should be compensated for that additional time. So we're looking for a 3/100 FTE compensation for that, that advisory period, because that's approximately the length of time that they would be, of additional time that they're being paid to work. Because of that advisory period. Similar to, that's for high school. For middle school, the time is longer because the time that middle schools spent in advisory is longer, so the 6/100s. And then just adding the language that at no time will part-time teachers or advisory be required to develop curriculum or produce materials for their advisory period. This is not a change in practice. At least from our understanding of what the district wants to, would like to. Go ahead.
And just for me again, right, I am thoroughly confused at why this is an issue. So if you have a halftime member at either the middle school or high school who works in the mornings, they teach advisory in addition to their 3 periods. If they work in the afternoons, they don't teach advisory, they teach their 3 periods. And they're both compensated the same amount of time or the same amount of money. They teach different amounts of time and are compensated the same. We are just looking to pick.
Let's make some more.
No.
All right, that is in our entire presentation. Thank you for sitting through that.
So can I make a throw out there?
Yeah, behind.
I don't think we're gonna take. I think both hours will not be presenting ours. So if these next 15 minutes, we'll kind of talk about our questions. Then we'll have a little lunch, which is there by noon. Let's have lunch just in here, and then we'll spend right after lunchtime clarifying the questions, and then we'll just go right into the next one. And it's absolutely open to discussion, not from the.
Okay, so we take a break. You work on your questions.
You not sure?
Eat lunch. Then.
Yeah, we could, I was thinking like one, I mean, I like to eat with you guys, but I also like efficiency of time too.
You guys.
Let's do their time.
Okay, perfect. We'll spend 15 to talk, and we'll come back, have one, and we'll work on it.
Thank you. See you.
At 9:15.
Yep. 15 minutes, yeah. 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock. 15 minutes from now.
It feels like Groundhog Day. Weren't we just
I can start.
Are we going in any particular order or are we gonna jump around?
We're gonna jump around.
Okay.
Article 8, page 40. You all ready? Page 3. Page 3. In H, we're talking about additional physical support from other adults. Can you give us some more information on what that means? What that looks like, examples of,
That they're there.
just physically present. I am looking at Article 23 on the second page on C related to instructional hours due to inclement weather. As it's snowing, it just is appropriate to bring that up. Can you clarify the added language about days missed will be required to be made up only if they are needed to meet state minimum standards?
The minimum instructional hours, all of those.
So if high school wasn't meeting, but elementary and middle were, then we wouldn't add, that's saying that we wouldn't add any instructional time back?
Yes.
So that would require us then to submit a non-compliance with Division 22? That's the intent of the language?
Or find a different way than tacking on days at the end of the school,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I think that was our intent, was just to come up with things that incentivize us coming to creative solutions rather than just going with the adding on days.
Thank you.
I would say that change, Tracy, ties into a number of the other changes related to like the change in the calendar on the front side of 23, right? The communication, the idea of the 40 instructional week,
Yeah.
the ability to take a few of those Fridays in April or May and flip them back to instructional days, and then
Right.
there we are, right? So,
Yep.
So on Article 14, under personal leave, just clarifying that it would be 3 total days and not holding over, or to hold over a day to make it 4, or is it just 3 total days? Okay. That's fine.
Did you say that?
Right now, we have the 2+1, and so a lot of members are already getting 3. This is not 3+1, it is just 3 for.
everything. So there is no more rollover. No more calculation for potential rollover. It's just always.
On the part of the article is the hire, under contract, the long-term sub under contract.
It's
So it's only 15, thank you. What do you guys mean by under a contract? Under a contract with a vendor, under a contract directly with them, under the bargaining unit, or like what is, I just was wondering what when you were contemplating that, what you were thinking of when you say under contract.
So long-term substitutes will get a contract that says, here are all the days that you're working, right? Here's your compensation. And then they don't have to put in and accept a job every single day, right? Is it still called ASOP? That's correct names. Frontline, thank you. That was used the wrong name. And then that might identify, Brian, that they are working on, let's say, the 6-week progress report day, You know what I mean? So they're getting paid for that day. Or they're coming in for in-service week, right? So they're getting to know the school rules and so on and so forth. We sound like
I think the part that I'm still mixed up on is the district gets its subs through Edgy staff, and so that's who they contract with. And so I don't know that the district individually contracts with people unless it's just something that I'm not aware of or contemplating.
I know they do, head secretaries.
They have agreements.
Right, they have written up, it's called, I know it's being called a long-term sub.
And these are not people in the bargaining unit.
Correct.
Well, in frontline, you can put in an absent that's for 5 weeks or
Sure.
whatever. So I don't know if that's,
I have no idea, yeah, I don't know the frontline, side of it.
but you can put in a.
There isn't like a thing that they sign? Okay.
No, you can have a long-term sub through the staff. And they can put in 30 days at a time. There's a reason for that.
Gotcha.
So again, our intent of that, right, is kids are best served, teachers are best served, and we have a sub in there the whole time for a long-term effort. Right, if you have somebody new coming in and doing a week, have a 12-week chunk, and you have 12 people rotated through, or you have people every day coming in, the kids aren't best served by that, right? The member's not best served by that, admin's not best served by that. And so we are trying to find ways to encourage, let's just chunk this thing out and try our best to get one person into that.
Yeah, not debating the merits of it, just, I didn't know if there was some mechanism that I didn't know that you guys had specifically in mind. Thanks.
Is that wrong? I think those are clarifying.
No. I mean, I would just kind of echo according to those. I mean, there's a lot presented, so sometimes it just takes me a little while to process it also. We will have clarifying questions, particular ones as we go through these articles. Try to highlight the ones where we know what you meant.
So I think we. I'm making something, I think we're ready to present our.
Yeah.
And one,
Yes.
clarification, point of order.
Sure.
In 24, when we, as we were presented, we realized that we had left some folks out. We'd like to reserve the ability to come back with, an additional line item, probably, within that section, so I identify some staff who are members who have student or caseload. And need also be recognized.
24 you talking about.
So this is in the new section 6, D6, which is the class size caseload language. These tables. Possibility of adding lines for folks that mistakenly use.
To clarify where people belong.
Yeah,
Someone who just want to be able to come back and have the ability to add folks that we have forgotten in the section 6 of Article 24 into the chart.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I do. You have a paper copy?
Thanks.
One can start every probably. All about the lecture.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we should group that one, if she goes.
I don't know that the call is long enough, it's really that maybe.
I'm willing to help you rearrange that. I'll be more than happy to help.
Yeah, so she has the camera off on that.
No,
What she said.
We're okay with that.
Are you all able to see the ones in the, yeah, there's some.
It's fair to put out maybe on one of the activity.
Yeah, I have that, nothing's coming up to this.
Do the internet saw the smell and just freaked out and.
yeah, I'm just looking at, I'm trying to look at my camera to see if it's going at my house.
I was shared with everyone, I don't know why.
It's gonna do that, yeah.
First hand pass,
Yeah, I was sorry, not any less.
and then again in April.
Of course, it's pretty good.
So you too get the massive binder.
Needs to be by just head.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Down and then we can have the, I don't think they did have the paper, but I'll send that share. If not, me and Jared, I don't think anybody can get on it now. Alright. Well, you all have the paper copy there, which is great. They're gonna start with January.
It's all good.
I think before we get started, one thing I would say is that, once you, I think, take a look at the number of articles that we're opening in the scope, I think one thing you'll find is it's somewhat less than we typically opened in the successful bargaining. And I think for us, as we looked at the bargain we went through last time, and that was a hard bargain, and that went on for a long time. We kind of filtered it as far as, let's highlight those things that we feel like are fairly specific, essential, and so we've kind of gone with a less is more approach, I think. Again, I think, it'd be our goal, and I'm sure yours as well, to actually finish the bargain by the expiration of the current collective bargaining agreement. That'd be a new one for us, right? We tended to go on for a while, so I think that's one of our goals as we've come into this process. So I think as I'm looking at it, we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 articles that we're opening, and that includes salary and insurance. I didn't count term of agreement, but I guess that would be number 11, so.
And we'll do a salary, I think we might talk about it, I'm sure with Christine, so.
Yeah.
That'll be in the market department. Financially. Okay, I have Article 3, which is very simple, I think I signed myself out, it's so easy. Oh, it'd be mine. Okay. It is announcements H. There was some recent confusion for this conversation around, somebody getting times in some meetings to share any information that might come up monthly, with members in a building. So one just put the, time amount in there, and we said, struck out of any faculty meeting, and instead of a staff meeting to just align with the language that's in the rest of the document. I think faculty meetings is the only place in the contract where that use of faculty is presented, so changing faculty to staff meeting once per month for no more than 10 minutes. I've had a conversation, I think, with Mark, when we were trying to figure that part out. Somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes would be appropriate, so we added the 10 minutes.
Next is Article 4, section G. Adding the language, when reporting grades or other evaluations, the member will use the district approved grading scoring scale and policies. And the rationale with that is there's been recent confusion expressed by some members regarding whether like the grading scale of A through NG is teacher determined or district determined. This language, by adding this language, it reflects past practice as well as current district policy with regard to that. And it doesn't undermine or do anything different to the language in the senses after that. And the reason this is really student centered, we don't want a student earning an F in one classroom that's the exact same class. Just because another teacher felt they deserved an F versus a student over here that got the NG. Fs obviously impact report cards and your GPA, whereas NG doesn't. And so we felt it's important that be consistent. And so we're proposing adding this language because we want there to be consistency and also be able to acknowledge what's occurred in buildings in our current practice.
I have Article 7. And it's really just a clarifying, not so much a change. We're just asking to take out this step language. This even as level 1 is informal, level 2 is formal.
We missed one.
Yeah, we missed one on G2. There was a missed cross out there. But other than that, it's just, there have been times where it's unclear to both parties in a conversation, and so I'm trying to make that clear that we can.
I know that complaint is one that we have raised before in our confusion by some administrators about, when, and we argued about this one a fair amount last time, when do we have that informal level? When do we move it straight to formal? And so I think that's a familiar theme for us to see that, or if the administrator determines the matter is appropriate for informal resolution, then it would move to the formal level. Again, there has been confusion among administrators and discussion about why am I having an informal level when I know for a fact this thing is the nature of the complaint, the nature of the allegation is going to demand that it move on to that level of formality. So we like there to be clarity in the complaint procedure. That's not where we want grievances. So that's what we're looking to do.
Where are we at now? Sure, I can start. Again, section D, or A, seriously disruptive students. The idea here was to change the word violence to aggression as well as intimidation to imminent threat of harm or harm to self or others. And the idea behind that was to get to language that's very specific and describable versus something that's completely subjective depending on the person. And that can be what one person considers intimidating, another staff member who maybe works closely with that student would not be intimidated. And so it's important to really focus on the student's behavior versus our response to that behavior.
And then with also aligns, with, handbook. It's just. So the second one is under D as well, number 2. And the first, we wanted to, the seriously disruptive behavior is defined in number 1. So we wanted to change that when the student engages in behavior that is seriously disruptive as defined above. And then we would like to change the word shall to may refer the student to the student assisted team, the special ed team or other appropriate group. Because there are variables, sometimes this is an isolated incident. Sometimes there are factors that we need to take into consideration, and one of these things might not be the appropriate team.
And then the last change is, let's see, I, making the language more general, building intervention team, and that just reflects the reality that over the last 5-10 years, we've used different terms that all kind of mean and be inclusive of the same idea, which is interventions to support kids, but sometimes that language is MTSS, sometimes it's PBIS. So to try to make it more general, that the important thing is that there's a team of people who have been identified, regardless of their title, to address that behavior.
There's one other change in D2, but I just wanted to not just the strike right now. It says that the group shall arrange a conference with the member and teachers, and we just changed it to members. So I guess there was some confusion in our group of why we would use member and teachers. So we made member potentially plural. I don't know that that was really intended to be a substantive change. Again, more just confusion of why we would say member and teacher.
And similarly in J, the strike through again was just try to align with current language across other areas. That's it.
Next is 18. And Ryan kind of spoke to the change in language around the Building Student Conduct and Safety Committee to just Building Safety Committee. So that change kind of carries over into this as well. Some of that is also related to the Common Safety Committee agenda that we have across buildings, of a district-wide form that's used for that. And that is aligned with what our insurance carrier requires of us for some different savings and things, as long as we're having these conversations. So that's part of the change there, is related to some cost savings, but also alignment of language with the new discipline handbook and some of those things. So that's on there a couple of times at the bottom of the first page and the top of the second page. And then we had that same strike that was referencing language from last year when we talked about rewriting the discipline handbook. Not the only changes in there.
You proposed changes in Article 23. The first is in that main paragraph of Section A, where the contract is contemplating people getting notice of additional work days. Right now it says very specific, provided to all affected members on March 15th. And so for us, we believe that the point is people need sufficient notice. So if we can give them notice on February 15th, why wouldn't we? You know, why would we wait and then do it on March 15th? So don't know if that's a substantive change or if it's a clarification, but it doesn't seem to be a burden on either party, just because it would seem like the more notice, the better. And that our end date or our latest possible time would still stay the same. In that next paragraph down, I think that whole language reflects our operations Juneteenth has not been a paid holiday. We have to account for the fact that if it does happen to fall during the member contract year, how are we going to address it? And so, as is the case in many districts, it simply becomes a non-contract day. So that's the change in the second paragraph. Most school years, I imagine that that's not even an issue. We proposed this last time. If you go down into the chart and it carries on to the next page, you know, we've got this weird placeholder in it. When we settled this contract last time in mediation, and then we were going back and forth, and I never really, honestly, I didn't understand the objection to deleting that. So I'd like to hear more about that, because to have a line item and then have 0 seems odd. There are a whole bunch of things we can put in this chart and say 0 days for them, you know. So the chart's kind of supposed to be telling us when we do have certain things, not when we don't. So it's odd. It's odd. It has that reference back to being based on the 07-08 conference schedule, which doesn't get used anymore, is my understanding. So we're proposing to delete that. That's it for
Article 24, there is, looks like there's an update on the first page A, in the second paragraph, it says core 504, under the school IDE or 504. And then, one, two, under student assessment dates. Added, that the assessment days will be scheduled with approval of their supervisor.
And then the second part is, looking at high school, and the assessment days and looking at the scheduled meetings during finals week, with the exception of Wednesday late start activities, which would be like our collaboration or PE days. And those needed to meet IDEA and 504 deadlines. So, you know, IEPs that have to be completed by a certain time or will be out of compliance staff. But recognizing that on final week, that Wednesday morning, the 75 minutes would fall into that calendar. 60. Oh, 60 high school for.
Yeah, and also strike out sped.
Oh, yeah.
Again, more just because to acknowledge the fact that there's all sorts of different staff maybe scheduling those meetings.
And then we have these, but under B, daily and weekly prep time, we just fixed the misspelling that we found in text. And under B3 for high school, we also struck out the block schedule language that has been around for forever, and just addressed high school teachers shall receive no less than the total of 375 minutes. You guys can read, so I won't do all that for you. And then at the end added, which you'll note is parallel to the middle school of up to 4 times per year scheduling may necessitate the loss of daily prep period. And that could be for things such as career fairs and special events that happen in high schools that we need people available to help support our kids. And that's it.
We will have a proposal for you on 25 and 29, and we'll also be doing our financial presentation that we typically do of our meetings. Some of you have seen some version of that several times. Although obviously it's different every time.
Article 31.
Start with that.
Yeah.
13. High school counselors may be assigned to 10 extended contract days during the summer at mutually agreeable times with prior administrative approval. This is again, just to kind of emphasize what has already been occurring, but the reality is our counselors, there's no way we would be able to start school year without our counselors, let's be honest, right? It's phenomenal. They do a heavy lift. And so to expect them to do that, if they were to come back at the same time all other staff came back, it would not be realistic for them. And so this is just putting that in there that allows for that to occur and continue to occur.
And then at the same time, we struck the old 13. That's really just a cleanup. Those positions were in place back when we had a different technology department set up. And so now that it's centralized and coming from the tech department for support of that, we just crossed that language. And then, 9, F9, the way it was written before, it made it sound like we had to have Saturday school or Wednesday school and all of those fun things. And so when, we added the word when in there, so that if we are doing this, we're still gonna follow all the same guidelines as we would have tried in the prior language, but it's just recognizing that we don't necessarily have all of those things occurring in all of our buildings.
Can I take us back over to 24 for a second? You missed a very small bolded number. So let me count pages here. 1, 2. I think it's page 5. So it's 6D. It's at the top of the page, 6D. So it's a very small change. Yes, well, it's important to me. So this is related to our curriculum rate, and previous language, and it looks like we're missing the strike there, was that it would be a step 1 for the curriculum rate, and we would like that to reflect what other stipends and things are in the contract.
Okay.
So an important B2. Yes.
Everyone's like. No. I'm in agreement.
None of the agreement to change this.
We just have current language there. I mean, I think our assumption is when you see an economic proposal from us, it'll be a 3-year contract. So I mean, that will be our intent. Typically, how we landed here. Doesn't take a copy.
Take a caucus and, questions.
Okay, sounds good. You have a thought on time, or you want to just, knock on our doors?
Maybe that's 20 minutes. Because.
Did not have something I did.
Yes. Not right now. I would recommend. I would recommend your point. Thank you.
We're gonna go into. Are we going? Alicia, do you want me to? Or you from there?
We'll switch sides next time.
So Article 3. H question was, what is a staff meeting like? When do they happen? Basically, with the agreement we had last year about when meetings would be involved and when district business would be handled. That there are no specific things on staff meetings on the calendar. So it would really reads like there would be no association, store association time. According to the way that we are handling. Because there are no strictly staff meetings.
Yeah, what did, this came up, so what happened? When were these meetings being held? I think you and I had a lot of conversations about these meetings and.
And frequently being held, like on those Tuesdays, meetings were happening, staff meetings were happening Tuesdays prior to September draft. And, that's the time that it was needed, that association time occurred.
Historically, and this is probably the last decade. The understanding from the past contract language is any meeting that the district had, the association could ask for time. There is no limit on the time, like no specification on the time. But like you said, like it was 5 to 7 minutes. And so any meeting that the district held, the rep could ask for time again. The last couple of years, I mean, honestly, Barlow is the one that has been fighting this the most. And that's where our conversation came. You're right that we don't have reference faculty meeting anywhere else. My understanding from the past was that, right, they meant any meeting that the district was running. That's why it's a faculty meeting, not staff meeting or some other meeting that was referenced everywhere else. But for the last couple of years, it's been happening during the Wednesday times at the buildings. They would ask for the minutes at the end of the meeting.
I believe that language, any faculty meeting has been in this contract for decades upon decades. So I don't remember ever barking that in, if I go back to 2000.
Yep.
So I don't know what they meant when they bargained in faculty meeting, or if faculty was just, they were starting to use that term, they thought that sounded, you know, I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Frequently faculty as well. It's an entire mixture of certified process.
Yeah.
That's just basically employees of the building.
Yeah.
But. So I'm just trying to get clarification on what is meant by this, what are you really trying to drive to?
I don't think that we have a problem. I think I speak for all of us that members have time with their people, leaders have time with their folks. When that happens, I think we have an arbitration, or we're going further around that team time and staff meeting time. I think that's one of the things that are coming down the pipe to define, and looking at you because you're the guy. So that might be yet to determine whether it's staff meeting or faculty meeting, depending on what comes from, you know, decision around that. But I think we're in agreement that there should be some time during for folks to be with their members, not in excess of 10 minutes-ish monthly. When that would happen, I think that might be something that we could consider.
But if there is no place where anything's scheduled that's called a staff meeting, we know there's no place where anything's scheduled that says faculty meeting, so maybe we need something, a different term. Okay.
Is it your intent to limit association meetings to just be able to meet once per month?
That was not my intent.
Like
but I
you're-
think that's.
In this sense, if you're saying like the opportunity within that type of a setting, that is.
I got you. I see.
But not 5-minute meeting. Just 1 10-minute meeting, 1 meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
As written, that's.
That's fine.
Then when I can move back.
Back to my notes. Yeah.
So in regards to 4G, evaluation of students. The question is, do we have a written policy or around grading?
if you use OSBA model, you have, it's probably not very specific, your district policy, I doubt goes into the details of your grading protocols.
We have a document from
But you do.
21 that outlines high school grading with a scale of A through NG.
I don't know if it's, I don't know, is it a board policy?
No, but there is a guidance document.
That's what I think why we tried to be, have other besides references to policy, why we used approved grading, scoring scale and policies, because I don't think the policy itself goes into much detail, the board policy.
And elementary is very different than middle or high school as well.
We can get a copy of that policy, please.
Yeah, it's in the I section. I'll look it up.
Second question is this only for interim grades or semesters, et cetera, or is it at any point?
Well, with the intent to term, because yeah, like if the policy is A through NG, then the idea would be NG is really given not at progress grades. The intention of having the NG philosophically, whether you agree or disagree, is to have consistent grading throughout the district in that sense. So you wouldn't, even on a progress grade, you wouldn't want one student getting an F and another student getting an F. If that's what your question is. Is that your question?
Well, so that is partially, I mean, so your student hands in a paper that doesn't receive an A through a D. We would give them a G on, an NG on that paper.
And that's been the policy.
So that actually be a changing policy. Because even at bar level, Fs are being issued at 6 weeks, Fs are being issued at 12 weeks, and then NGs are being issued at the end of the semester. And that's been the policy for years.
Not sure that's the policy, but that may be the practice.
So certainly, I mean, this conversation, these questions point out to the next question, which is, how is this policy?
Well, that brings up a big question, right?
And then does it apply then for secondary, because Fs are issued at middle school for grading, but Fs are off the table, then you're saying for high school. So there seems to be inconsistency in at the secondary level.
For sure. I think we have discussion on this one. We're happy to bring policies that exist and other documents that were what we would consider to fall within this reference. So, I mean, I think it's our intent not to debate the merits of any individual grading policy.
No,
but
sure.
only
No, we're
to-
just trying to make sense of like, it was like word of policy. and
Yeah,
it's-
what are we talking about?
So what about legally assignments that are being graded? Would this language allow the district to require me to use a particular scoring guide for my daily assignments, not just my end of semester grade or my progress report grade, but daily assignments that I'm grading for students?
Are you proposing, like, could you give an F on an assignment versus an NG?
So I'm just looking at the language.
Or are you saying like what constitutes an F? Like I think, or what constitutes an NG, or what constitutes a D, right? Like I
Or
think,
what constitutes a 7 out of 10, or,
right.
so right now,
I think that is up to the teacher, right? Because you have said, you're the expert in the content area, and that's why the language after has stayed, right? The language afterwards is if, like, let's say you give a student an NG, and the admin feels it should have been a D. There's a process of why that should occur, and then it has to be documented, right? So that's
a final grade.
that would be a final grade.
I've been talking about day-to-day grading.
I guess
I don't,
the easiest way to answer your question is our language and the intent of our language is for the district to have the ability to set grading policies, practices, et cetera, and have those be uniformly followed. I don't know whether they would or do have what you're talking about, but I guess if the question is, could the district, then my answer would have to be yes, because our intent here is that the district determines the
the policies, the teacher acts according to their discretion to assess performance within those guides. So I'm just trying to answer your question as clearly as I can without getting too much into down into the topic of, you know, should we, or what about this, or so.
Would the policy say something like, my grade book must be updated every 2 weeks?
I have a policy.
Oh, what's the policy number?
Policy is IK, is academic achievement. And a lot of what it talks about is making sure that students are graded on the content of their work and not add to, not anything else that's subjective. It doesn't mention anything about grading frequency or anything like that. Progress towards completion of the diploma. Parents alert that the student is not doing well, so that it's not, you know, someone knows that the student is not progressing. And it's based on academic performance and not attitude. So it's in, and it's one that we recently looked at to make sure that it had been reviewed for a number of years. To make sure that it had a little bit more updated language to it. So it's policy AK. There's no ARs that go with it. There's no administrative regulations that spell out how it's done. But just trying to get it to be consistent in how it works. So that's what
I would have expected, fairly general and not providing. That's why we use the reference grading scoring scale to kind of point out that there will be other resources besides that general policy.
Right, and it just says that the school system strives for consistency in grading. So that if you go to school A, you go to school B, you turn in the same work, you don't get graded differently based on the exact. And then no grades given can also be by evaluating the student if there was not a grade.
Okay, moving on to the complaint procedure in Article 7. So the question is, understandings for determining complaints is level 1, level 2. Are there examples that can be given?
But whether you would start with, if we have the language or if the administrator determines the matter is inappropriate, or if we have that language.
And I would just clarify and say, you already have the right to move to level 2 if the administrator thinks it's warranted, but the member needs to be put on paid leave.
Yeah.
So anytime they're on paid leave, it implies the seriousness of the situation.
Yeah, so many examples that I would give you would already be covered because they
That's
would be.
what I'm asking. Other examples where an administrator would determine it needs to be level 2, but it's not serious enough to put them on paid leave.
Well, I can think of ones where it wouldn't be legally required to put them on paid leave, showing up at work under the influence. We would not have an informal resolution of that. We would have an investigation for that, but there'd be no legal requirement to put somebody on paid.
And it would be on leave, paid leave, right? If you think an employee is wrong, you're not going to say.
More often than, yeah,
Right,
more often than
not
not. It wouldn't be legally required. Would we typically do that? Yes, some level of like harassment, one employee harassing another employee. So now I don't have any child abuse reporting, sexual misconduct reporting, no mandatory statutory leave. We may not put somebody on the paid admin leave, but we would probably move that into a normal investigatory realm. I will say that I see the reference to been placed on paid administrative leave. We do get a lot of urgings from not necessarily your association, but others to not use that too liberally because of the consequences it has to be, right? If I put you on paid admin leave and you apply for a job somewhere else, you have to answer that you've been placed on paid administrative leave. So there's drawbacks. We don't want to overuse the paid administrative leave, is what I'm saying, right?
Where there was a student or reporting or a parent reporting that the teacher made their child feel uncomfortable. I wouldn't necessarily put that teacher on paid administrative leave, but it would be worth investigating and pulling the teacher and following this process that depending on some of the rumors.
The nature of the allegations. Yeah.
Just for my clarity again, can you delineate the difference between a level 1 and a level 2 process for you. Like, I feel to see why it's good to go to a level two. I would like to understand what you view as the difference in the process, level one or level.
Well, kind of going back to the first piece you were talking about, why do we even propose this? We propose it because I think administrators feel like it is an unnecessary and inefficient use of time to go through an informal process when you know that based on what's been alleged, you're going to end up conducting an investigation. I mean, that's the only ramification of going on to level two, is that at that point, you're going to have an investigation, right?
But again, the difference between an informal and a formal. But what do you think has to be done in an informal? Let me ask that.
Well, there's a potential meeting between the complainant and the employee involved, right? And the administrator, a problem solving sort of meeting, I would describe it.
With or without complaint. Doesn't have to be all.
It doesn't.
I'll just be honest as grievance. I don't know, maybe that happens informally and I'm not invited. I have not been to any of those in the 12 years that I've been grievance. They don't happen.
Well, for example, if we got a complaint that a student disagreed or a parent disagreed with the student grade, I'm assuming we would refer them back to the teacher for a discussion. Moving on.
The informal would have a principal.
The administrator, well, and that's part of our proposal also. The administrator may confer with the member with or without the complainant present, so that could happen at the discretion of the administrator and or the complainant. So there are potential situations where you could have a meeting between the complainant and the employee.
Yes, I think I'm clear on the issue on what you guys are getting at, so I'll let it go. Thank you.
All right, moving on to Article 8. So we see the striking the seriously disruptive students, striking the word violence and changing that to aggression. Just wanting to get at the district's intent of moving from the word violence.
I think it's alignment with the handbook. Yeah.
Because, I mean, aggression is a lot more hard than actual violence is.
Yeah, again, I think it was alignment. One of the things that we talked about as we looked at this article was wanting to use constant, consistent terminology and have alignment between this and the other major controlling document on this topic, which is the handbook. So that was, and I don't want to speak, I can't remember who on our team did that work, but that's.
Yeah, we just wanted that alignment, where not handbook doesn't use the word violence, it uses aggression.
Thank you. In I, we were wondering what the building intervention.
You say that again.
We're wondering what the building intervention team is in I. The additional language, striking PBIS. The student, actually, that's just the changes in the, I'm sorry. But, so the building intervention team.
I think we were intending that as a catch-all, so no matter what specific title, because those have tended to change over the years, that it was always reflected.
So
Yes.
if it's changed from PBIS to something else, we would still have an intervention team, so not specific to PBIS or any other program that we.
It's more generic terminology. That's the only reason we proposed it. To make it so we didn't have to rebargain every time a specific label changes.
Or the current name. Schools use.
There's a PSS. So what's a PBIS?
PBIS.
Is there a? Well, it's your name, your supports. Inclusive supports.
Yeah,
And they're different, they're not uniform around the district. Certainly not levels, like elementary, middle, high, they're
Working.
different. Yeah, I got it.
but these members can still bring the situation also to the safety committee.
Correct.
The building safety committee.
Yep.
Not of individual.
Or the principal supervisor.
Got it, okay, thank you.
It wasn't intending to eliminate the function. where people could bring a concern.
No questions on. I have a question about Juneteenth. Does
Mhm.
anyone in our district receive Juneteenth as a gift holiday?
I think 12-month classified employees, because otherwise they'd have a reduction in yearly salary if you made it a non-contract day. There'd be no additional day for them to work to keep their number of work days full, so they would lose salary. We're not gonna do that. So they get that.
So what about the year, we do have some year round, like SLPs, early childhood, evaluating those things, like, would they have it as well?
Are they
Year round,
year
like,
round? Like,
Yeah, you're on the calendar.
They're 9 weeks a month. So. I don't know what falls, I don't know, Juneteenth falls on their off week.
it would depend on their actual calendar, so they don't.
they were taking a look at those.
Also in that sentence, you use the term contract year. We're not clear what that means. We usually say work year.
But that's fine. It's your, whatever you're contracted for 100 and,
Typically 92.
192 days. And then that usually runs from August through June, right? So yeah, contract year, work year, I think either one of those. The title of this article is work year, so maybe work year is better.
Isn't it mostly related to, in the event that we've added snow days that week,
Yeah.
right? Then the 19th would be a non-contract,
That's right.
no school
It's the
day.
only time we've ever
It's
worked
a
on it.
weird.
That's right. So the makeup day wouldn't be on the
Right,
19th.
right,
makeup day would be
that's
on
the
the 20th.
intent of our language, is that if we added days that we know that we would not have students.
Oh, so
No, you.
Well, without a training, there's two. That's it.
Right, there's, yeah, I'm working on the 19th.
you changes in article 3. Page down from here. It's the high schools. It asks, or it states up to 4 times per year scheduling excessively velocity. What kinds of things would necessitate velocity? You might mention it.
Career day was one example that we gave.
Yeah, career days are the main ones. I mean, there's definitely in our building, it'd be like. Work's going on, all school field trips, community care days, there's different stuff that can pop up.
Did you say care days?
Or, yeah, community care days, like, things you're doing with like the whole school, like kind of set up, everything.
Further questions?
That's a pretty small list.
You only get it really 4 times a year.
It's 32. We got two.
Maybe we'll have 4 career days.
Field trips and
Spring class,
Spring fest.
But the 4 was in aligning it with
No, it's good.
middle school. That's why we chose that number.
But we're just trying to make sure we understand what we're agreeing to. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're just saying, oh, it's just this one day, and then later every year, we're gonna claim all 4 days, and we have.
No, I think honestly,
Special
what you're
events.
reading.
Spring fest, career day,
How many does
Some
it usually
special
impact
time.
middle school? Like, how many?
We go to assemblies, correct?
Yeah.
We go on field trips on occasion, but that has died off through the years. That's really it.
I think for us, we saw it at the middle school as being flexibility that we would like to have at the high school, not because we really intended to increase or change the number of situations that could possibly be.
Hey,
How many years are high school counselors, getting ready now? Probably extended contract too.
High school, I think it's 10,
The whole, everybody on the team.
up to 10, up to 10.
So it's voluntary.
Because that's kind of language that goes for the department chair for high school, but it's being given to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, ever since I've been, this is year 9 and counselors had that, I think it was that many days. So maybe, maybe it is inched up a little bit, but I think it's been about that. And when you look at the things that's either required to clean up everything at the end of June or the beginning of the year, it's definitely utilized. And I think part of the challenge with it was making sure counselors, especially when they apply for positions, that they kind of know that that's, especially a new counselor. I think high school counselors, they know the gig, they know that. But if it's a brand new counselor, they don't necessarily know that there's going to be these additional days on both sides, right?
So when you say summer work, you're talking about June and August.
Yes, yes, but depending on,
And then
again,
you're starting-
up to, yes, and depending on Barlow, Gresham, or Springwater, we all have our own little ways of the way it works best and the way the timing is. So I don't want to speak for Barlow and Gresham in terms of like whether they do the heaviest lifting in August versus June. I know in my building, we try to kind of like make it kind of equal. But again, it's a give and take between the counselor.
So they used to actually sign a work contract that would show those work days. So they used to, before we went to 192, back when we were to 191, they would sign a contract that said they were gonna work 201 days. So then they would just be paid out over the course of their year. And now it's just an ATTW that they've been doing. And it's kind of, they don't really know from year to year what it's gonna be. It's kind of been up in the air. And I don't think they've seen a contract with those extended work days on it for quite some time. Does that sound accurate?
It sounds accurate in terms of like, I think I've only known it as ATTW, and this is year 9. So, so I would say that matches. That matches my understanding in terms of, yeah.
Have you known any counselors who have chosen not to?
Or been able to?
No, I mean, again, I think that's where the language in terms of like mutual, like discussing back and forth, and that's why we need that again there. Is the idea is like, this is the lift. We're gonna have to lift this sometime, somewhere, right? It's not gonna just magically disappear. So it's like, how do you work that out with the counselors and figure it out? So I mean, for me, if there's ever been a time when it's like, no, this is not a great time, or these days won't work, it's like, well, okay, how can we get creative, and could we do some of that over here, right? We've always been able to make it work. Yeah.
Most have any, that wraps up our questions.
Okay.
To 20 progress.
9 o'clock, so we can.
Do you want to take a quick break to talk? We've already talked quite a bit about what we might have on our side of the agenda for next time. I don't know if you guys have had that conversation.
We just looked at questions.
Okay, maybe we take a little bit of a break and come back and set the agenda.
I think I have a list of where we were on current contract, which articles.
Okay.
I don't want, but
And just
There's a handful.
keeping in mind for next time, it's gonna be that financial, the presentation from Dennis, and then two other articles, the salary and benefits articles that will be presenting, and 31. So whatever you want to add, or keeping in mind we'll have a whole day.
so 25, 29, and 31, because you're around 31 today.
We'll have a more like a economic component of 31. We have a stipend number. Oh, stay tuned for next time. Find out.
My curiosity is.
It's not for people for serving on the bar.
Special stipend to get rid of. This is y'all.
Yeah. They know, they already know. They do this only for our strong appreciation
No, I don't think we should still let that. I think we can stay in here.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everyone. Relax. Okay.
Felicia's us off.